Hey, welcome to Lightning Powered Art. I know it's been a long time since I put a new video out, and I need more subscribers and more of you guys, if you enjoy these videos, that are already here, to let all your friends and family know, and subscribe. Leave your comments in the comment box below. Check out the links in the description box, and share this video. Let me know what you guys would like to see next. I'm always open to suggestions, and yes, I'm open for commissions. If you need art for your projects or a gift or anything you need art for, hit me up. Contact info is also in the description box. So today I am drawing a commission, a fantasy themed one, kind of like a Lord of the Rings medieval type thing. And I get these kinds of commission requests all the time, so I wanted to do a little bit of a commentary on what my thought process was as I do these kinds of commissions. So this character is actually based off of a real person, the person who hired me to do it, and what they wanted was something kind of, royal, regal. So that was my main focus here, what little details I could add to her clothes. But also, because without giving too much away, the character is kind of a royal, type character who's disguised as a commoner. So even though her clothes were going to be, luxurious, there had to be a sense of adventure about her, that she wasn't, a static type of character that just posed or looked good. She also had to look that she was, under the disguise of a character or a occupation that, required her to travel a lot. And she also has a magic flute, so that was interesting, kind of designing that. It's on her back. So let's get into a little bit of the details. As you can see from this part of the video, I'm drawing a hood. I wanted to actually draw a cape type of thing, a robe that she would wear over her clothing. It's very layered, so there's like more than 3 layers of clothing that she would wear. I would imagine this is in a very cold type of climate, so that's the look we went for. And Game of Thrones, that was a big I guess influence in the writing, I guess, of how the character would feel or how she would look, even though I didn't use any real Game of Thrones references when I was drawing the design. You can see underneath it all, she actually has some kind of royal embroidery and seams within her robes to kind of make it a little bit fancier. I kept a little bit of a space open, maybe just for a little borderline, I guess, sex appeal to the character. In a little opening within the dress, the cleavage area. But at the same time, because it was a cold climate, I wanted the idea that the layers of clothing would kind of make up for it, if that makes sense. That little exposed area. I think, being such a huge Star Wars fan, a lot of how I kind of coordinated it all was inspired by the costume designs from Star Wars, particularly on Padme, Queen Amidala. So definitely a big part of the influence here. And this is actually the first time I've ever drawn a character riding a horse. So she is horseback here. My first time ever drawing a horse. I forgot the name of this breed of horse, but it was like speckled and it was gray. Oh, it was a Percheron. I hope I'm pronouncing the name right. A Percheron. And it was like a speckled gray type of horse. And so it came out pretty much great, like the very first try. There wasn't any real struggle for me at all doing the horse, which kind of shocked me, being it my first time, but it all came out pretty well. The way I did it was I would just kind of break the horse down into very large areas. I don't, since I'm not familiar with the thing, and I do this a lot with like newer type of things I'm forced to draw for any type of situation. If I'm not familiar with it, I'll just break the whole object down to a very large shape or series of shapes and just, you know, draw how it looks rather than trying to go, you know, in details of how everything works. Whereas with the thing I'm familiar with, like a human, I can, you know, actually draw like muscle groups and like, you know, all of that detail in it. And that's, you know, before I ever ink it. So, and that's kind of ironic, I guess, in a sense, because, you know, when you put so many details as you know, evolve and advance in your art, you kind of get the tendency to overthink a lot of things. And sometimes I find myself, actually many times, trying to fill up the entire, you know, figure I'm drawing with like little details, you know, all the stuff I learned over the years. And then it doesn't matter because here's a naked character and the character has clothes, so you don't see any of those details. So it was a nice refreshing change of pace here to just use gesture drawing and gesture techniques as a way of covering a lot of areas fast in this. Actually, I shouldn't use the word gesture. I should actually use the word shorthand. And there's a difference between shorthand and gesture, but that's kind of a long subject I don't want to really go into. Maybe I'll make another video for that one day. Would you guys be even interested in seeing tutorials? Let me know. Because I've made a ton of tutorials over the years, but I've just literally got them all sitting in a folder. Haven't uploaded only but like a few of them, and that's on my like DeviantArt page. But this is a lot of shorthanding and a lot of gesture techniques I used here, combining it and trying to basically cheat and make this look a lot more complicated than it actually was to draw. And another way I can achieve that look is by trying to vary up like little patterns. Not cross-hatching, because for this, I mean, even though I did use a little bit of cross-hatching, I try to keep it minimal, because I feel like for my style of art, or at least what I was trying to do with this picture, too much cross-hatching would have made the thing look kind of dirty, so I didn't want to make it dirty. But I figured by varying the textures and always kind of using contrasts and like opposing lines in closed spaces will give you that like visual, you know, complexity without actually doing something really hard. Like for here on like the thigh of the horse at the back, I just faded it all black, just used heavy black in that area, and then near the top of it I used some cross hatching to kind of give the idea like this was fur. And then I draw the tail right behind it, but the curls and the curves of the lines on the tail are going in the opposite direction that the cross hatching on the horse's leg is doing. So that kind of gives you that visual flowing, you know what I mean, that flowing kind of movement where you don't ever feel like you're looking at a very plain object. And then I do the same thing with her dress at the very bottom. The camera probably can't pick it up, but they're actually like dozens of little cross-hatched lines to kind of make it look like, you know, a threaded, you know, clothing item. I wanted it to look a little bit thicker than, you know, I guess her strand of hair, you know, so that worked. And then I left that space on the horse itself plain in contrast. There's no lines inside of the horse. So just doing techniques like that, you know, will help you kind of cover a lot of ground without it really taking that long. And I had most of the idea of what I wanted to do with foreground already, because I had made several layouts before. And the way I do commissions is I'll always give people at least 4 layouts that they can choose from, and based off of which one of those they like, we can start building on into making a final picture. I don't always imagine all the details fully as far as the backgrounds, however, but here's one of those ones where I kind of winged it, and I knew I wanted a forest, and we knew we wanted some dead trees, and that was about it. And I knew that if I was going to do anything like that, I was going to need a brush. So I went to the Copic multi-liners. They have some nice brushes in that set, and they're not too big, so that allowed me to just freestyle in most of it. And if I didn't have brushes, this would have taken me literally like hours and hours and hours of trying to simulate the idea of that random look that brush can give you, like within seconds. And I remember I used to look up to my favorite artists, inkers especially, like Bruce Timm, Mike Mignola, and I would wonder, like, how did they know when to do X and Y and Z with the ink? And that's not really something that, you know, anybody can teach you. Like, for me, I just knew that I wanted some, like, you know, feathering. I call them teeth, actually, on certain parts of the branches, and then on the other parts I wanted to give the idea that there was like scratches, or like some of the bark had peeled off, and I would just shade, you know, just quickly move my brush across the whole thing, you know, and then leave certain parts uncovered in a negative space kind of way. That was it. That's all I needed to do to create that, you know, shedded kind of, you know, not shed, but like weathered kind of look in the tree. And that was only on certain trees. Like, a whole forest won't have all dead trees in it. There's gonna be some that are kind of living in various states of decay. Some are twisting, some are straight. And on this left side, I wanted this tree to be kind of full, and I actually imagined there would be snow on the tree. So I was really trying to be careful with how I filled in the details, trying to leave as many open spaces as I could to make sure that it looked like the snow made the branches really soft looking, and they didn't, you know, ever really fully get exposed because there's so much snow covering them. Trying to figure out where to put the dead trees among that was a little tricky, because it had to feel like random, it had to feel natural, but I also didn't want to create tangent lines. And tangents, in case you didn't know, are basically when you have two lines, either horizontal, vertical, diagonal, that within the foreground and background are at the same angle. So that creates the idea that there's almost like a hallway look and you don't ever want to do that in nature. So because that never happens in nature, I was making sure to be careful, you know, where I did it. And if I ever felt like that was too close to happening, I would just throw another object in front of it and have it curve in the opposite direction. At the same time, I didn't want to overcrowd the image either in the background, even though this looked great by this point, because I wanted there to be enough space to kind of, you know, maybe put a mountain or some other super distant, you know, background objects in there to really sell the idea of distance within this scene. And then on top of that, I put these little black dots and stuff to kind of, you know, say these are shadows, and that's, you know, there's snow under their feet, so they wouldn't have a hard shadow as if they were on concrete. So I figured we could use a little bit of pointillism to give the idea that you know, the snow was covered with their shadow, but the way light affected the shadow was a little bit different than in a normal circumstance. I could have even put, like, you know, horseshoe kind of prints in the snow, but I felt like I didn't want to detract too much from the upper level of the image, which is where the main focus was. So that was pretty much it at this point. I think it started off with a good layout, and that was the key, and the instructions I got were really clear. And the further back into the background, it was easy to get really carried away, but I managed to avoid the temptation somehow. So like, comment, share, subscribe to this video immediately, and don't forget I'm open for commissions. Thanks for watching. Bye.